Welcome, everybody, to Spirituality Adventures. This is a non-judgmental place to explore spirituality, and we're so glad you're here. This is a viewer and listener-supported podcast, so we greatly appreciate your support. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, share, and subscribe to any of the social media content platforms that you're using. And then if you go to our website, spiritualityadventures.com, you can make a one-time donation, or with a monthly subscription, you'll gain access to our bonus content. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you for tuning in. It's my great privilege and honor to interview Lieutenant Colonel Barry Bridger, who served in the United States Air Force, a pilot shot down over Vietnam, and a POW in the Hanoi Hilton for 7 years. As he tells his story, he gets so excited, he's tapping on the table for those of you who are listening by podcast. And that's the way they actually communicated in the POW camp. And so if you hear the taps, and you hear some funny noises, that's him just so excited about his story, telling it and tapping it out as they did even while he was a POW in the Hanoi Hilton. So I know you're going to enjoy this. God bless you. Welcome, everybody, to Spirituality Adventures. Thanks for joining in. Today, we are privileged and honored to have a true American hero on our podcast. I am so blessed. This is one of the men that I respect the most that I've ever had the privilege of meeting, and it's Lieutenant Colonel Barry B. Bridger.
I would encourage the audience to divide all those nice comments by 12.
Well, Barry, it's such a privilege to have you on Spirituality Adventures. I think we met probably sometime in the 1990s when I was starting Vineyard Church at Lakeview Middle School.
We were stacking chairs together.
That's right.
Listening to sermons, both of which we needed to do.
Exactly. And I met your wonderful family, Sheila, Courtney, Deidre,
right.
And love your family so much. So honored to have met you. And for people who are listening, we're gonna kind of go backwards and start with Barry's growing up years. But the thing that is so compelling about all of this is compelling. But Barry was a U.S. Air Force pilot, shot down over Vietnam, spent 7 years in the Hanoi Hilton. And back in the 90s, when we were at Lakeview Middle School, I had Barry share one of our whole services. And I can remember your message to this day, and we're going to get to that a little later.
Okay.
But I can remember the things that you had to incorporate in your life while being tortured and in Hanoi Hilton to survive. And we're going to get to some of those things, but things like humor, faith, and scripture, and those kind of things.
They all played a role.
Yes. But let's start at the beginning. Like, tell us where you were born and kind of your early growing up years.
I was born in Durham, North Carolina, and after my birth, I was placed in the Durham County Orphanage in North Carolina, Durham County Orphanage. And I was there until I was almost 6. I was 5 years of age when the first family that had an interest in potentially adopting me showed up and invited me to go with them for the weekend to be in their home. They had a son by the name of Ellis, who was about a year older or so than me, a big kid for his age. And they had driven up to the orphanage with the expectation of taking an orphan on a weekend trip to their home. And I was outside at the time in the top of a chinaberry tree with my only friend I had named Billy. We spent our time in the chinaberry tree instead of with balls and bats because the older kids took it all. And so what we discovered was the older kids wouldn't climb up the top of the chinaberry tree. They were scared, and we weren't. And we were like a bunch of Reese monkeys hopping around up there, having the time of our life. And if we could get hold of something, we'd take it up to the top of the chinaberry tree, and nobody would come and get it. And I was invited to come in, walked in. They said, "This is a fake family. Would you like to go home with them for the weekend?" I said, "Absolutely." I'm thinking of that thing called a car. I'd never been in one. I had to see what was in there. Cars would come up and leave, and wow, we got to go look at one of those cars. And so had cottontail rabbit for supper. I'd never had bunny. And the next morning I was up before anybody because everything I saw I had never seen. Everything was an adventure. Everything, including that goldfish pond that they had out front of their garage. And I've never seen a goldfish. I've never seen a pond. Never seen a bridge over water. Nothing.
Yeah.
I was just lived in a world with a toilet and a green and brown paint walls with a bunch of kids at these big picnic style tables all screaming and carrying on.
And you love that pea soup.
I grew up in that daggone commode more than anybody else, I bet. But in any event, the next morning I was outside and here comes Ellis. He finally got up. He walks over to the goldfish pond, reaches down and grabs a goldfish and starts squeezing it to death. I went into an absolute rage. And I knocked him out of the way, picked up his goldfish, threw him back in the pond, and then I grabbed his head when he came at me and was trying to drown him in the pond, and here comes his daddy. They packed me up, put me in the car, drove me back to Durham, and put me back in the orphanage, and my first venture outside the orphanage did not go well.
Right. They didn't sign you up there.
About a month or 2 or 3, I don't remember how long, they showed up again with an intent to try me one more time.
Wow.
Well, I was delighted. I get to ride in that car. And they decided to go south from Durham to a little small southern town by the name of Bladenboro, 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 North Carolina. A population at that time, maybe 600. Wonderful people, hardworking, loved their kids, understood the importance of telling the truth, working hard, being competent in what they did, being respectful of others, and visionary in how they dealt with their community. So I rode in the car down to that little small Bladenboro town, and the people that they were staying with, good friends of theirs, the Hilburns, found out there was a little girl named Nettie Van that was having a birthday party the next day, and she was about my age, and wouldn't it be nice for the orphan to be able to go over and have some fun at the birthday party? So they drove me over there. As I stepped out of the car, all these kids I did not know show up with these little blow toys with that, I don't know what they remember.
Party whistles or something like that.
They blow out, and hit you in the face, and they were all blowing it in my face, and I immediately got mad. That's what I always did in the orphanage. And I started whacking at them, and whatnot. And here comes Nettie Van's mother, who shoos everybody away, looks at me and said, "Barry, do you want some ice cream and cake?" And I knew exactly what that was. I had bumped into ice cream and cake. And so they took me over to the table with the ice cream, dished me up some ice cream and cake, took me over, and then handed me a plate. And then they walked off, and I looked around like a wild animal, because anytime I had anything in my possession, the older kids would try and take it. And so I'm looking around to see, where am I going to go to eat this ice cream and cake so nobody gets it? That was my thought. And I saw a mimosa tree. I like mimosa trees. They got fragrant blossoms on it. And this particular mimosa was in full bloom. And there was nobody around that mimosa, so I put my back up against it, and I started eating my ice cream and cake. And about 30 minutes into this, I look up and I see this mansion in front of me. It's got columns, it's got slate walkways, it's got azaleas and camellias adorning the entire yard, and a great big magnolia tree that's in full bloom. This was a sight for a kid who's never seen anything.
Right.
And Nettie Van all of a sudden appears beside the mimosa with me and says, "Barry, would you like to go over and see that home?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." So they take me around the corner. I met this lady. Her name was Myrtle. And Miss Myrtle looked at me. She said, "Barry, we're going to be talking in here. You do whatever you want. If you need anything, let us know." She didn't grab me by the cheek and shake me and say, "You're cute," and all this stuff. She just said, "Go," which is fine. I love that idea. So I'm flying down this hallway that's got beautiful red carpet, and everything, every room, every corner is an adventure. I haven't seen any of the things that I'm seeing.
Yeah, just being in a home like this. Yeah.
A piano. I've seen none of this.
Right.
And I ran all through the house. experiencing all kinds of things. Like the man of the house was upstairs reading a newspaper, listening to the ball game. It was the Tigers, the Yankees 6, the Detroit Tigers 5, and it was the last inning. And when I walked into the room, this gentleman dropped the paper because he heard me come in. He looked at me, put the paper back up so fast he disarmed me. I didn't have any reason to be concerned about anything. And he says, "Sit down over there if you want to hear the rest of the game." Kept on reading. Never said a word. And the Yankees won 6-5.
There you go.
And he said, "Well, the Yankees won." I said, "Thanks. I don't like Tigers." So I got up and walked out. So I could go on and on and on. There's a lot of other adventures associated with that. I'll let you keep talking.
Well, this is the family.
This is the family
that adopted you.
Oh, that is an incredible adoption.
Yeah, and that's quite a God intervention, it seems to me, right?
I would never, under current law in the United States of America, have been adopted the way I was. It went like this. At when Miss Nettie Van left, it was time for supper. And so Miss Myrtle said, "Barry, you want to eat with us?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." They had this beautiful black American lady by the name of Maggie. In fact, I was running down the hallway because I was smelling food, and I went into the kitchen and I bumped into a lady that looked just like Aunt Jemima. And I felt like I was in the wrong place, so I turned to run out, and she said, "Where are you going?" And I turned around because she disarmed me the way she said it. And she says, "Come in here, I have something for you." So I go into the kitchen, she dishes me up blueberry cobbler. I've never had any blueberry cobbler. I thought I died and gone to heaven. And when it didn't take me long to finish.
This was the first black woman, black person you've ever seen, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And she says, "Would you like some more?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." So she dishes me up another. I had 2 servings of blueberry cobbler before supper began.
Awesome.
And then I had the blueberry cobbler at the end of supper. I thought, this is adoption stuff. Of course, I didn't know it was adoption. I said, this is really a great place to be. I was enjoying. Awesome. Well, the next morning, Miss Myrtle comes and takes me downstairs, and we eat breakfast with Mr. Henry, and he goes to work. And pretty soon, Miss Myrtle is doing some other stuff in some part of the house. I'm sitting there at the table, and Miss Myrtle comes in. She said, "Barry, come on out to the porch. Mr. Henry has something for you." I walk out on the porch, and there's Mr. Henry. And he kneels down in front of me on his knee, and he's got a little puppy in his arms. And Miss Myrtle says, "Barry, will you be our little boy?"
Oh, wow.
And I never left. I never went anywhere except there.
Wow.
That was the way I was adopted. Now, behind the scenes, Miss Myrtle was looking out the window at the birthday party, saw a kid she'd never seen before. "Who's that little boy at the mimosa tree, Nettie Van?" "Well, that's that little orphan that came down with the Hilberts." "Oh, well, he keeps looking over here. I think he wants to see the house." So I go over. Well, after supper that night, I went upstairs, and Miss Myrtle showed me a room that her son, McCrae, had a balcony, private bath, propeller on the ceiling. He was just coming back from World War II as an aviator, and skilled aviator at that. And so I slept that night in an indescribable world for me. I'm in this great big bed with all of this aviation paraphernalia around me, and my own bath. I am, next day, a puppy. And so that morning, after I went to bed, about 3 o'clock in the morning, I got up, I dressed, and I walked out of the house. And I started walking down the street. By daybreak, I was almost 5 miles down the street. Everybody was looking for me.
What were you thinking? Why were you leaving the house?
Because I was just enamored at everything I saw.
Just everything so new.
I never seen Firefly. I'd never seen any of this stuff. I'd never seen any of these things. I was just, and boy, was I full of energy. And so they've got the highway patrol, they've got the sheriff's department, they got all the
whole town.
They're looking for this,
the whole town.
This damn orphan. Where is this kid?
God.
Well, it's darkness falls. It's about 8 or 9 o'clock at night. I've been gone now for almost 2 days.
Oh, Lord.
And I'm walking around in swamp country looking at everything, hearing all kinds of, I hadn't seen nothing. I hear all this barred owls. I know what a hoot owl, the barred owl, a great horned owl, a long-eared owl. I know all of them because I lived it. But it's about 8 o'clock at night, and there's all gravel roads, dirt and gravel roads. And I'm bebopping along, happy as a lark, and I see a car coming. I recognize cars. And I see the flash on the headlights. I said, oh, boy, I'm going to stand here and watch that car go by. I was really excited. Car pulls up, got bubble guns on top, Smokey Bear hat on the guy in the front seat. He looks out, rolls the windows down, looks out there, and he said, son, is your name Barry? I said, how did you know my name? The place was exploding. They drove me back to the Bridger's house, and I didn't run away again.
Oh, my gosh.
I was adopted that way.
That's
how I got adopted.
That's some divine providence right there, right?
He put me where he wanted me.
That's amazing.
And he's still doing it.
You know, and then you're in this room with aviation stuff.
Right.
A little foreshadowing of the rest of your life, right?
It's foreshadowing.
So tell us, just because the book that just came out on your life that Jim Peterson wrote is called The Spirit to Soar. And the way he put this together is lessons in life, right?
Exactly.
Beautiful. I love the way you guys put this book together.
Exactly.
And there were
life lessons,
right? And there were some of the key because I want to speed ahead a little bit to your education and getting into your military career because of our time. But what were some of the key lessons that you learned from this loving family that adopted you? What were the key lessons that you learned from them as you grew up? Your elementary, junior high, high school years with that family into college.
The first and most important lesson I learned, and I learned it very, very quickly, was, as I had shared with you earlier, that in an orphanage, it's not uncommon for the smaller kids to have nothing and the bigger kids take everything that's available. It's just nature and the way it is. And so I grew up in a me first mentality. I had to fight for what I got, and I had to do it all the time, and Billy was the only helper I had. So the two of us against the older kids. And so we got strong and started learning how to climb high into a china bear tree, because if we got something, we'd go up there and they couldn't get to it. And they wouldn't dare try. That was our one advantage. Mm-hmm. But when I arrived in Bladenboro, and my adopted mom saw in me all of this energy and this protective nature that I had, and wanting to be first and to get everything. I was very aggressive and very, very much trying to take to capture everything I could capture for myself. I was self-centered in the first degree. And she sat me down one night and explained to me, it was my first lesson in values. She said, you are going to learn that in this household, we take care of our neighbors first, and we come last, and so do you. So I want you to understand that. Well, it took me a while to figure that out. In fact, I want to show you something. Where's that bag I brought?
It's in the rocking chair.
This is one of the most valuable experiences I've had in my lifetime. And I had no idea what the truth was about what I'm about to show you. But I'm going to expose you to something that my new mother, wrote and put on my pillow one night.
Okay.
My dearest Barry, with all the love in my heart, I want to call your attention to a few things. Though I can't talk to you about it without a tremendous argument. I'd always defend myself. We lost sleep about your failure to contact us on your trip to Sewanee. I had a car. I'm in high school, or I'm in early college, and I'm all over the place like a wild man. Don't think we weren't worried about you. If you had only told us, it would have saved us the anxiety of expecting you. It hurts, too, to think you have no more respect for our feelings. It must have been about 10 o'clock, no, about probably 11 or 12 o'clock at night when I started to jump in bed that night. I saw that letter laying on my pillow.
Wow.
In fact, we have decided home only means to you a place to eat and sleep. You never stay here very long or long enough to even have a friendly conversation. I fear you're setting a pattern or habit for life that will follow you even when you get married, and that will not work then.
She's teaching you, right? Wow.
Let me finish. It gets really powerful. Your mom knows how to write. You can double cross us now, but then it won't work when you're married and have a family. The world can't offer you a thing that will compensate with a happy home, life of family, devotion, and companionship when you have a home of your own. My prayer is that you will make a wife happy and be a loving father. My dreams will be fulfilled.
Wow. That's beautiful.
So that was my first lesson, serious lesson in values. And quit thinking about your silly self, Bridger.
So it took you a while. It took you a while to learn.
This is all that orphanage mentality I had. Yeah. And I felt so bad.
Interesting.
This had a profound, forever positive impact on my life.
That's great. That's beautiful.
Yeah, and it's the truth.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that.
My mom and dad were just, I do not have the words to describe how good of people they were.
That's awesome.
And beautiful. They meant every word of it when they said their neighbors come first.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, let's talk about, you went like ROTC. Do they still?
ROTC.
Yeah, ROTC.
Like my brother was. So I followed, foreshadowed, followed him.
And went to, you were at Tar Heel.
Yep, Tar Heel.
Tar Heel. And studied mathematics while you were in college.
I had a reason for that. I did not like the idea of reading book after book after book and writing long essays and so forth. It's either right or it's wrong, and you figure it out real quick if you know how. Then I could go home.
Yeah, there you go.
So I like math. Math is right or wrong, and it's quick.
You had a love for hunting, football, fishing from a very young age. But you, but let's talk about your military career. You get just give us a rundown. Well,
when I was in the ROTC program at Carolina, which I joined just because my brother was a pilot, and then I was very heavily influenced. And I was very fortunate too, because there was about 25 kids in my class at Carolina that were in the ROTC program, and only about 3 of them were selected to go to pilot training, and I was one of the 3.
Wow.
So they were very strict back then. If you had any flaws at all, you had to do something else. And I was healthy as a horse. I guess that Chinaberry tree and all that work I was doing running around kept me strong. So anyway,
I think you still are.
Healthy. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I still do some interesting
You still
things.
Do stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I do. My wife receives phone calls all the time from my buddies. They don't let Barry go out on the river at night. And she says, you can't stop him.
That's right.
And it's true, you can't.
Oh, my. Yeah, so you were in your, so you got selected for pilot training.
I did. And so I went off to Big Spring, Texas, down in 100 miles west of Abilene. And I went through their pilot training program. And then at the end of that, they formed a board, and they allowed you to put in what you wanted to fly, where you wanted to, what aircraft you'd want to fly coming out of pilot training. And then the board would decide which one you actually got, because they didn't care what you know, if you disagreed with the board, you lost. That's where you went. Mm-hmm. I wanted to fly trainer aircraft just to build time. And they said, no, you're going to a fighter. So they put me in an F4 fighter. At that, and the F4 at one time had the world speed record at 1,606 miles per hour and the world's time to climb record from 0 to 99,000 feet in 6 minutes and 6 seconds. And that was perfect for me.
Yeah, I bet.
Couldn't believe I got that.
Wow. So
it had consequences later.
Exactly. Yeah. But such an honor. And this is an elite group of people that you're flying with, training with, all that kind of stuff.
Very bright, very good people, very talented. If you made it to the pilot training, you had probably the skills to finish.
So the Vietnam War is going on.
Yep.
And this was 1960. What, when you were training for this fighter jet? 67.
Yeah.
And then as you flew 75 missions.
Yep.
At night, is that right?
Yep. I was a night pilot. We had people who flew only day missions, and we had a squadron of about 20 guys that flew night missions. The night missions were dangerous because we had to fly fairly low because of anti-aircraft fire and stuff like that. But by the same token, and to attack our targets, what we were doing is interdicting truck traffic coming south out of North Vietnam, out of Hanoi, down into the DMZ to supply the Viet Cong and to supply the North Vietnamese regular army. And we were looking for trucks running down that system.
Trying to hit supply lines.
Trying to hit those supply lines. And there were a lot of karst ridges that stuck way up 2,000 and 3,000 feet that you could easily run into if you were in the wrong place. We had flares we'd throw out, and so you had to be very careful. So it was dangerous. We lost a number of people even while I was there that hit those karst ridges.
So then, after all those night missions,
I finally completed enough that they gave me a day mission.
A day mission.
And it was actually a day mission to go shoot down MiGs. I couldn't have been more happy that I could have a chance to engage MiGs. That particular day, we were also carrying a QRC-160 pod, which was a radar jamming pod. It would send out a signal that jammed the guidance signal that was coming from the ground to the missile that was flying through the air to hit us. And we were told that if your QRC-60 pod, when you turn it on, does not operate correctly, then fly up close to your element leader. So that's a flight of 4 aircraft. You had a lead and a element lead. And so he says, their signal will jam for both of you. When I got home, 7 years later, they said, if your pod's not working, do not fly up next to your element leader because you'll double the radar energy reflection and be shot and detected and shot down. And I went, daggone.
Good to know that earlier, right?
It would have been nice to know that. I was just doing the old slow turn like we were in formation,
Yeah.
But they were able to double the energy coming off of that. And they shot me down and a lot of other people too. Right. They shot down like 15 B-52s with that.
Whew. Yeah, so you're all of a sudden spinning, right? You're upside down all of a sudden.
I got hit, and when I got hit, I was running about 700 miles an hour, and at 24,000 feet. And the missile that came up through the clouds, I saw it. I called it out to the rest of the flight, and then I got nervous. Something told me I need to do something other than just sit here with this gentle turn with these other guys. And so I suddenly flipped upside down and split S.
Okay.
The instant I did that, the missile came in the back, exploded, knocked my right wing off, half my left wing, and the tail. I was in a chunk. My back seater was flying, just a two-seater aircraft. He thought I was dead after the explosion, and he ejected. I didn't hear him go. I was too busy looking at all the lights in my cockpit. I'd never seen them all come on at once.
Right.
And the lights would say things like, you need to service your hydraulic pressure.
Okay.
You're overheating on the left engine. Your right engine's on fire. And all this stuff, And I'm sitting there looking at all this. I even saw a light I'd never seen that says, you're in deep kimchi. I'm telling the tale about that one. But anyway, I'm sitting there with fire everywhere and all these damn lights on. And I thought, I'd probably ought to get out of here. So I reached down and shut my eyes real tight because I figured it was going to really be breezy. And I pulled the handle, and boom, I went out. Well, I had my eyes, when I opened my eyes, I couldn't see. I was blind. And I'm going, okay, now I'm blind. And I kind of clawed at my face, and I discovered that my helmet is spun around on my head. I'm looking in the back of the helmet. So it spun it back around, and I can see. And I'm going, yes, I can see. And I'm in the seat itself is being stabilized by a drogue chute. And it's going real smoothly at about 80 miles an hour down towards the earth. That day, the weather was very bad. Every 2,000 feet was a deck of clouds, and real thick. And so I'm going through these decks, boom, 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 boom. And on the side of the seat is a sensor that senses 10,000 feet altitude. And when it does, it kicks you out of the seat and deploys your chute.
Wow. Yeah.
And so I'm looking at that sensor, and nothing's happening. I'm looking down below me, and all I see is a deck of clouds. And my brain is saying there's going to be dirt in one of those deck of clouds if that sensor doesn't work properly.
Right.
That's what my brain is telling me. And then my brain says, why don't you calculate how far you've fallen? Well, I see. I went out at 24,000 feet. And my mathematical mind kicked in, and I calculated real quick the number of feet I'm going and how long I've been falling and how many seconds. And I said, the next deck of clouds, by my guess, either has dirt or it's the one afterwards. I don't know which. I don't like this. I pulled a handle and separated myself from the seat. Now I've got to deploy my chute myself manually. So now I'm flying through these decks like this, and I'm looking for my ripcord, which I couldn't find initially, and I'm going, what? I looked at my chute. It's up over my head about 9 feet on a strap. And I thought, maybe my ripcord's up there, and I'm pulling the chute, and I'm on my back, going down through, and it ain't there. And I happened to see it right here on my harness. And I went, oh, whoop. And when I did that, the chute inflated right here in front of my face, and it banged or broke my back. Like that. I thought, wow. And then I landed in downtown Hanoi.
Oh, gosh.
So that's how I got shot down.
Wow.
So it was kind of fun. And then they captured my back seater first because he was a big guy. He fell a lot faster, and they picked him up, and they were about to try and interrogate me out there in the field when he showed up on the Jeep. They took us both into Hanoi.
So you land in you're captured, land in the infamous Hanoi Hilton.
Wallow prison.
Basically, this is 1967, right?
Right. 23 January, 67.
Yeah. And you spend the next almost 7 years in this hellhole.
Oh, yeah. The average was 5 years average. That's pretty big average for people.
And you go through torture and all that. And some of the top 3 torture techniques you've listed in your book here.
Yeah, it's all detailed.
And I've heard you describe that. And but what I was so inspired by was, obviously you endured so much, but how you endured it and the lessons that you grabbed onto with your fellow prisoners. Give us some of those key thing. What helped you survive with your other POWs that you were in there with? And by the way, you were in there with there's some famous people that have come out of that place, right?
Oh yeah. I like to say to folks, tough times await us all. What you value about life, about living, about being will determine the outcome. If you were captured by the North Vietnamese, you were placed into a concrete box. You had no idea what was about to happen. You were all alone with your thoughts and your values. Eventually, you were taken to an interrogation and given two choices: cooperate fully with the North Vietnamese camp authority or go to the torture chambers. Now watch this. Without any idea what their fellow POWs had done, one by one, all of America's Vietnam prisoners of war exercised the values they held in common and chose the torture chambers. Caring for one another was for us the right thing, the proper thing, the Christian thing to do. We did so naturally, instinctively, without forethought. In other words, our value system was on autopilot. It compelled us to act and thereby to survive. I've met a lot of people up there, primarily just tapping on the same wall. I didn't see them face to face. And I was absolutely amazed at the fact that they had the same values I had. I could not have been more enthralled and happier to realize I was with people with that mindset and that willingness to step into the breach, no matter the consequence, and take whatever risk they must to help those in greater need than themselves. The news about the quality of the effort that we put into doing the right thing is a story that's never been told.
What about the secret code that you guys invented, your own code?
Yeah, this is my dad is listening in. Richard Herron, he loves Barry, and and my dad considers you one of his heroes. So
divide by 12. Okay. But, the communication, the TAP code, which consists of 5 letters, 5 rows, and 5 columns, produces 25 letters instead of 26.
And was this Stockdale that kind of invented, or is it all of you together?
The original TAP code was taught at all of our survival schools as part of the training. Okay. So that part of the communication was developed and taught.
Gotcha.
However, it was very slow, very cumbersome, and very dangerous to use, because any fool can put his ear on a wall and hear. So it's not only allows us to communicate, it allows the guards to hear it. And if they heard anything, you were headed to the torture chamber. So, and it was very slow. If I want to say hi, I'm going. Instead of, later on, we developed something called the POW Hand Code. Now, the POW Hand Code, the guy that introduced it to us was just a pilot that had bumped into it somewhere. I don't know where he found it, or he may have invented it, but he brought it to the fore. And the POW Hand Code is like the deaf-mute code, but it's not the same letters. The deaf-mute code can be read at a very close range, very fast. The POW Hand Code can be read at 100 yards away by a set of really good eyes like we all had.
Okay.
And I'll give an example. If I'm going to say hi, I'm going, or if I'm doing it with POW Hand Code, I go H-I. So it's hi. Zillions of times faster, and nobody hears you tapping on anything. And so it became the standard, most powerful communication technique we had. We tried Morse code, we tried every code you can imagine, but the POW Hand Code was worth its weight in gold.
That's beautiful. I love the idea that you just expressed prior to the communication comment. Was one of the things that got you through was when you would give yourself to helping another person.
And it was
the sacrifice, and that's came from your family, because they taught you right when you got there.
Your neighbor comes first.
Exactly. And then that's what you lived out when you were in the POW camp.
That's why values are so important.
Yes.
I get tickled at all of the people saying, I wonder what's wrong with us, why we can't get together. We don't value the same thing. Why would we get together? Now, the Lord has a hand in this. He'll decide when we need to start valuing the same thing. I have no doubt. Meanwhile, he says, you got work to do. You keep praying unceasingly to me, and I'll keep directing your path. And that's our pack.
I remember another thing that you shared about surviving this POW camp was the common faith that you shared. And I remember you saying that between all of you, it's like you came up with your own Bible. Like, I mean, because all of you had a different verse memorized or a different passage.
It's amazing. Absolutely we did. You know.
So you collectively pulled.
My favorite comment was, "As ye believe, so shall it be done unto you."
Uh-huh.
I love that passage in the Bible.
Uh-huh.
And the other thing that I followed to the T: pray unceasingly, and fear not, for behold, I am with thee until the ends of the earth. And on it goes. We're full of verse. My adopted family, they had me so full of the Bible in terms of verses. Mm-hmm. I knew a lot of them.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. But they put me into a position where I could experience this. And the Hanoi put me into a position where I lived it.
Yeah, yeah. The other thing I remember so clearly, and I'm going to have you tell one of my favorite stories of yours, is how, I mean, here you're in this dark place, you're being tortured, survival is, it's just day to day. You don't know what's going to happen. But humor was something that helped you guys get through this.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Yanks will laugh at anything.
For those of us who've never been in these kind of horrendous conditions, I mean, some of the worst conditions you could ever put a human being into, and yet you're finding humor along the way.
Everywhere.
How does that work?
Well, in 1970, 71 time frame, they identified 36 Americans in the entire camp system. There were about 500 of us up there that they considered to be troublemakers and instigators. And they put us in trucks and they took us across the city of Hanoi. And they put us into a punishment camp consisting of 36 individual solitary confinement cells. They were sending a message back to all of the POWs.
And were you one of these?
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh. You were a troublemaker.
Of course. Starts back in the orphanage.
Right.
But anyway, they
36.
They put us into individual solitary confinement cells, basically just a concrete box. And they put us in a row. It was a shed with 18 cells on one side and 18 on the other, one after the other. And we were all in individual solitary confinement cells as an object lesson to the remaining POWs that you will receive some of the same if you become obstinate and don't do what we tell you. That was their goal. Mm-hmm. I'd been there maybe 2 or 3 days, and I hear on my wall. And I go, and this individual starts tapping. And says, "Hey, this is John McCain. Who is that?" And I tap back, "Bridger." And he taps back, "Barry." He knew who I was. And he said, "I have a problem." And I went, which meant, "Pause, stop, don't do anything, be careful, someone's close." And I looked around in my 5 by 7 foot cell, and I said to myself, "I wonder what John's got I don't got." He says, "I've got a problem." What problem's he talking about? Don't have this anymore. So I go back to the wall and I tap to John. And it was sarcastic the way I typed it. And so he starts tapping very fast, very rapidly. He's upset. And he goes, "You don't understand. There is a big snake in my room." I almost fell off. Well, I did fall on the floor laughing because I grew up with snakes in the swamps of North Carolina. I had all kinds of snakes. And I tapped to John. I said, "Now, John, slow down. Let me tell you what's going on."
Oh, wow.
I said, "That snake that you're looking at is either a bamboo viper, a crate, or a cobra. Any one of which, if he bites you, you're dead in 2 minutes and 14 seconds. That's the bad news. Here's the good news. That snake doesn't give a damn about you. He's trying to find a rat. There's rats everywhere. I said, and you notice all the holes in your cell. They bore through that soft concrete. They had all kinds of stuff. I said, if you just sit in your little corner and just bide your time, he's going to disappear in one of those holes and then plug it up.
Wow.
And John is going, damn. You know,
Of course.
He'd never been around snakes.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And so I tapped back to him. I said, let me also share this with you. There is a very large black tarantula on my wall. And the first time I saw him, he jumped from one of the walls to the other wall without over a 5-foot jump. And I've got to deal with him. And I can't go to sleep. And you can't either. That daggone tarantula was about that big around.
Wow. Wow.
And I don't particularly care for tarantulas.
So, you know, I got to have you share the toothbrush story.
Yeah.
You know,
The what now?
the toothbrush story. Along the humor theme,
Partner.
you know, when you guys got issued toothbrushes, and the one about one of your buddies dropped his.
And it bristles up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that happened all the time.
Yeah, but you got to, you know, it's just a part of the humor component.
Your mate.
I'm trying to think. That toothbrush stuff was happening all the time. I'm trying to think which one it was. What do you remember?
Bristles up.
Oh, the bristles up. I can't.
Well, you
was
you told me that one of you guys had your latrine buckets, and one of your buddies had dropped his toothbrush.
Oh, yeah.
But your joke, I guess, was that if you dropped your toothbrush, as long as it landed bristles up, it was still good to use.
That's right. Yes.
And then one of your buddies ended up not just dropping it on the ground,
He dropped it in the bucket.
dropped it in the bucket.
And I said, bristles up when I tapped to him.
And he didn't know what to do, and he went in for it.
Oh, hell yeah. He just shake
And
it,
it's-
find some water.
he
shake
got it out, and-
oh, you won't notice it after
And,
a while.
the
Hell,
joke,
you can't
the
notice
joke
it
was,
anyway.
did it land in there bristles up? And he said,
Yeah. He looked in, he says, oh, bristles up. That's right.
so it was good to use.
Now I know what happened. He was brushing his teeth over his bowl and he dropped it, but it landed on the floor. Well, the floor itself's covered all kinds of crap. You
Okay.
can imagine.
Okay.
And I said, what'd you do? He said, well, it landed bristles up, so no problem. I kept right on going, you know.
I was thinking it landed in your...
But getting into the humor thing, here's an example of humor. One Sunday, all of the guards were on liberty except one. He was out in the central compound, and he was supposed to take care of everything. And it's July. Temperature in the room was 118 to 22 degrees. It's just bleeding heat rash. It's miserable. And I'm bored to tears, and I decided I'd do something. So I'm in my little single cell, block cell, and all of a sudden I just went, and immediately here he comes into the cell block. He goes to the first cell, he opens the peephole, and he goes, "Hudut! And you hear this yank go, baloney, no, that's not me, go. He goes to the next one, opens up his peephole, "Hudut! All the way down, he gets to my cell. He opens my peephole, and all I did was point to the next cell. And he's got this expression, oh, it's that guy. So he goes over to Bob Peel's room, opens the door and beats the hell out of Bob Peel, shuts the door and walks back to his spot. Well, about 5 minutes go by, and I hear a tap on my wall. Bob and I are next door.
I guess so, yeah.
And he's tapping to me. Bob wants to talk.
I guess so.
I'm still laughing over
I'm
there.
sure he wants to talk.
And he starts tapping to me, and he says some of the nastiest things you can possibly imagine. And he says he's going to do things to me that are physically impossible. And he goes on with his tirade. And finally, he slows down enough, and I tap back to him. I said, now, Bob, I don't appreciate what you've been saying, and your mama would not be very proud of you right now. you need to consider the consequences of becoming an individual that says such nasty things like that. You're a better man than that. I gave him this long spill, you know. And when we get out, I got him a date with Beth Bellamy, Miss Wilmington, North Carolina.
Oh.
And she's also a millionaire. And
well,
so Bob was happy with me.
You made up for it then.
Now, one other one. This is, you talk about humor. Here's another humor. They took about 100 American POWs, and this was after the first big raid of B-52s, and they put us in trucks, and they drive us into China. Then they turn north and west, and the road network goes into the northeast corner of North Vietnam, and that's with the same border that China has, so that they can slip that 100 Americans across the border very quickly. If we try another Sante raid or some kind of raid to rescue prisoners, they have a trump card. And we were the bait, 100. Well, the night we got there were all these little buildings and a big fence around the buildings. And we called it dog patch, is what it looked like. And so they pushed about 10 guys into my little building they had, into this building, and locked the door. And we're talking to each other, and I'm saying, don't move, guys. We don't have a clue what's in here. I don't know how many snakes we got. I don't know. Don't walk around in the dark. You can't see nothing. And about that time, this guard shows up with his little lantern, sticks it between the bars. It would throw maybe light to your foot if you were lucky. And meanwhile, Ross Terry, one of my buddies, is feeling the walls with his hands, and he said, "Hey, there's a doorway here, and this, and that. Hey, there's a softwood bed in here, I think. Yeah, I'm gonna throw my stuff down here." He had a little pallet and something to lay on. He throws through here it goes, thump. And about that time, this guy with the lantern's coming by that doorway. So Ross reaches out and grabs that lantern and pulls it inside of this room where this bed is and holds it up. And on the bed, going back and forth, is about a 9-foot cobra, all flared out like this. and Ross Terry goes, "Whop!" And the light goes out, and he goes, "Cobra!" We all take off, running down through this concrete building. We have no idea where we're going. We can't see squat, and we're going to get there really fast, whatever it is. And when we get to the other end, we ended up in this pile of humanity, like Dallas and the Redskins, 4th and 1.
Yeah, you know? Right.
And I'm on top of this damn pile, the very top of the pile of this humanity, screaming at the top of my lungs, "You guys on the bottom are going to die!" Hell yeah, we would laugh at anything.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Damn cobras. We had a lot of snakes up there.
Man. Well, gosh, there's so many great stories, and you tell some of them in the book here.
Oh, yeah.
with Jim Peterson, and but let's talk. You know, 7 years, you go through hell, you survive it, and in the bonus round that I did with you, you said one of your favorite moments and places in life was that bus ride.
Oh, heck yes.
And let's talk about that, getting back home, meeting your wife, all that. So, yeah.
What about that one group that started singing that Christian song that you told me about one time, in that they were over and that all of them started singing that church song?
My dad's asking about some of the songs that you would have sang, Christian songs, maybe hymns, when you're in the POW camp. Was that a part of you talked about? I know the scriptures were stuff that you guys put together collectively. Were there some favorite songs and hymns?
The only time that we did something along that line was when we rebelled against the camp authority. And we had as many as maybe 200 or 300 people in the central prison of Wallow, all screaming at the top of our lungs some statement. And like, what the hell, let me give you an example. I can't remember what it was we were screaming at. we got really upset with the Vietnamese, and we protested, is what it amounted to, and we protested vocally. At the top, we shouted loud enough that anybody in the downtown city of Hanoi would have heard us. That was the idea, to let the whole world know that the POWs were there and we were all in unison. And we did that on a couple of occasions, but every time we did those things, there was a consequence to be paid, and usually it was very brutal. Okay, like, for example, we had about 2 or 3 different escape attempts, and the consequences were devastating to us. We had people who were literally tortured almost to death. They drag them past our door, and you could see them. You wonder why they were still alive, if at all. So those types of songs that we sang were in defiance for some reason, and usually followed by very difficult, torturous consequences, like hanging somebody upside down by his feet and beating him with a fan belt, and beating him until they drop him, leave him there for about 30 minutes and pull him back up and continue, because they wanted to find out who was pushing this and who was responsible, that type of thing.
Well, your ride home, you got out of this place. What was
We flew out of Guylam Airport, which was their central airport, and we flew into the Philippine Islands. And there was about a total of 550. The first wave, and that's an interesting thing, the first wave to go out that had been negotiated was the sick and wounded. And that was about 100 people on the first C-141. And then the next wave, which had been negotiated, would be those who you go home in order of shoot down. So if you were shot down early, you went home first. If you shot down late, you went last, that type of thing. And so the Vietnamese played a game. They switched it and decided they would send the next wave of people after the sick and wounded based on their choice instead of what was negotiated. And so the Vietnamese came in to get these people to take them to the airport, and all of them said, no, we're not going home out of order. That's what the Americans said, that we're in prison. It's pretty good. I like that attitude. And so they brought in some people from our side of the fence, some majors, a couple of majors, to come in and explain that Henry Kissinger and all of the folks back in the States are thinking we're crazy because we're not coming home when we're giving them an offer. And we said, well, we're not going to do it. Kissinger about had a cattle fit. He said, what do you mean? We can bring them home that they won't come? No, they won't. They only come home in order of shoot down. So we were negotiating ourselves.
Wow.
We'd already decided that's the way it's going to be.
Yeah.
Well, they sent in one general, I can't remember his
So the people in the longest were the ones that they were wanting to get.
All of us agreed. Our communications were so good.
Yeah.
We were all in agreement. We'll only go home by order, and we knew what the order was.
Right.
And we'd already been through that.
Yeah.
We knew exactly who should go next. And so they sent in, I think it was a major, I just don't remember his name. He came in and said, guys, look, they want you to come on home the way the Vietnamese negotiated it, but we promise you we won't do it again. That was the settlement. So we made them sign a pledge that, okay, after this, we'll only go home in order of shoot down. That was a real debacle.
Wow. Yeah.
I like that attitude, though.
Well, it's that others first kind of thing.
It is.
Yeah.
You live a life of others first, you'll have a good life.
Yeah. Well, so you got home in 1972. Was it 3? Okay.
For March 73.
Okay. March 73. Back home to Durham, is that right? Or
well, what they did is they put us into the Philippine Islands and cleaned us up and gave us a bunch of medical exams and so forth to make sure everybody was okay. And a lot of folks had divorces or other problems, so we had to resolve all of that. And then once you were cleared to go home, because they'd worked out all of any particular problems or issues or health and so forth, then you either went to the East Coast if you were from that section of the country, or the Omaha Central, and Castle Air Force Base if you were from the West. And you went to a hospital in one of those regions. And I was from the Carolinas, so I ended up going to Andrews Air Force Base, hospital on the East Coast. And that's the way that worked. And then you went into another hospital environment and with more tests. Once you got there, it was all kinds of tests in Andrews for me. And then when you were ready to go home, you went to a, plus they figured out what assignment you were going to have. Then you went to that as a final step.
Okay. And you, I want to get to you meeting Sheila, your bride. You guys met in the late 70s. Is that right? You'd been home. You got home 73. Oh, you met in 73.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because when we got
did
back,
you stay active duty?
I did.
And
what we had to do is become recurrent in the aircraft. So when we got home and finished our medical care in either the East, Central, or West Coast, once that was done, now it was time to go to your first assignment. But before you could go fly again, you had to go to a special program, which we did at Randolph Air Force Base, and become recurrent in flying jets.
Okay.
So I went there, I think I was number 16 to requalify.
Oh, wow.
And now I can go join a squadron and go back to work.
Wow.
But first I had to become recurrent.
Okay.
So they did everything right. They did it well. I was very impressed with the way they handled that.
And was it there that you met Sheila?
Yes.
Okay.
What happened was
Sheila
one of my POW
is Barry's
buddies,
wife.
One of my POW buddies was invited to be a member of the judging contest for a beauty contest in San Marcos University.
Okay.
And so he came back after his beauty contest. And he said, "Hey, I met a young lady you need to know." This particular guy was already married, and he was, of course, with his family. But he had become a judge, and he had met Sheila. He said, "I need you to meet this guy named..."
Look at this beautiful gal here.
Yeah, good-looking gal. Yeah, she was Miss Chalympiad. She won the contest, Miss Chalympiad.
Wedding picture.
Yeah, all right.
Pretty good.
Yeah. And so what happened was I asked him, "Well, where is this lady and what's her name?" and so forth. And he told me she was at San Marcos, that she worked in the administrative division, plus she was a college student and finishing up her senior year, and I ought to meet her. So I said, "Okay, her name is Sheila, and she works for the administrative section." I said, "That's all I need to know. I'm very confident I can take care of everything else." So I go over to San Marcos, and I find the administrative group, and there's a desk, and Ms. Sheila's sitting behind it, and I walk up. I said, "Hi." She says, "Hi." I said, "I need to talk to you." She said, No, you need to talk to the administrative director." I said, "No, I want to talk to you." It's not going to happen. You need to talk to me. She's very stubborn. So anyway, I did get her to go over to a saloon nearby. We had a beer or so, and I got to know her. And then after that, a week or two, a month, or whatever it was, I called her for a date. And she accepted. And the night of the date came, and I drove over to San Marcos and no Sheila. I'm going, "Where is she?"
She didn't show up for the date.
And I can't find her anywhere. She's just not there. And I'm concerned a little bit because she should have been there. And then about 2 days later, I get a phone call from Sheila. And she says, "Hi, this is Sheila." And I said, "How can I help you?" And I meant every word of it. I didn't appreciate her not being there.
Right.
And I said, "How can I help you?" And she says, "Oh, come on." She says, I went to show my title in San Marcos at a function, and I was doing that, and my car went bad. I couldn't crank it. And so I asked one of the individuals that attended the thing if he would give me a lift back to my hotel room, and his radiator blew up on him. I said, "I bet his radiator blew up on him." That's what I said. Okay. And I said, "So what's that got to do with us?" And she said, "You wanted to go dancing, right?" And I said, I'll think about it. But it didn't take me long to think about it. The one thing I can say about Sheila that is unique, I never was with her that I wasn't elated and happy.
Yeah.
Never.
That's awesome. Brought joy to your life.
She's a princess.
Yeah.
And an athlete. She played college basketball. She's got athletic kids.
Right.
Too.
And then by the time I met you, of course, you were married and you had two beautiful daughters,
right.
Deidre and Courtney, both of which were athletic.
Oh, big time.
And the thing I always loved about them is they'd go out there hunting with you. They'd go out there fishing with you. I mean, these girls,
oh, yeah.
It was amazing.
Absolutely. They're big time outdoors girls.
I just I didn't meet very many gals like them that would put on the camo.
Oh yeah.
Go stomping through the.
I'll have to show you some late photographs. You would not believe what they're into.
Yeah, both of them have children now.
Yes,
they're married,
yes.
And you have some beautiful grandchildren, right?
Great husbands. They're good kids. They're filled with.
So how many grandchildren do you have right now?
We've got on Sheila's side. I've got one grandkid named Gage. Gage needs watching. He is very determined little kid. He does everything, and he's like 5. I mean, it's amazing.
Is this Deidre's?
No,
Courtney.
That's Deidre.
Deidre's son is Gage. Okay.
Gage.
All right.
Shotgun Gage.
Okay.
And Courtney has 2 darling little daughters and a son by the marriage.
Okay. Yep. Beautiful.
So
beautiful family. Yeah, so so you're still hunting and fishing. You still doing that, and you've got a budding music career going on right now too.
Well, I don't know how budding it is. It's sure as heck a lot of fun.
Last time I was at your house, you took me down in the basement, played me some of the songs that you've recorded. Mm-hmm. You're going for it.
Well, I picked, like I said earlier, singers that I sing behind to learn how to sing, mm-hmm. and that's a pretty good way to do it. And I've met what's his name? God bless the USA.
Lee
Greenwood.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't believe it. He was a lot of fun. He gave me some advice too. I said, "What should I do? Should I try over the internet help, or should I do it with somebody face to face?" He says, "Face to face for sure." That was his attitude.
All right.
But I met him up in Washington, and I sing behind him, and then I pick other people like Elvis or whoever and try to mimic as best I can.
Yeah.
And it's been a lot of fun to do that.
It's fun. So give us one of your favorite hunting or fishing stories of late. Just maybe one of your funnest ones.
Okay.
Lately.
I was, this past April, I decided to go turkey hunting on the Missouri River, which I have done a lot. And so I put my boat in, got out on the river, and I'm floating down the river. And to the west, I see this gathering storm. And it's getting black, and I can see bolts of lightning flashing in it. And I get a phone call. And it's Sheila. She says, "Are you looking to the west?" I said, "Yeah, but I think I got enough time to kill a turkey. I think it's got to be at least 80 miles away." And she says, "Well, you better pay attention to that. You normally don't." So I said, "All right." And so pretty soon it's starting to rain. And that storm is coming fast. And lightning bolts are really lighting up the sky. And I'm out in the middle of the river, which means I'm the tallest thing out there, and that's not good.
Which river were you on?
On the Missouri.
Okay.
And I'm thinking I'd better get close to the bank, because at least that lightning that won't hit me. If I'm close to the bank, it'll hit a tree. But out here, it could hit me because I'm the tallest thing up. Mm-hmm. So I worked my way towards the bank, and I had a trolling motor. So I worked my way to the bank, and now I'm flying down the bank. I'm about 20 feet or so, 30 feet out from the bank. I must have been running 9 miles an hour. And all of a sudden, I lose power on my engine, and I lose power on my on my trolling motor. And I look down the river and I see a barge. The barge is about 100 feet long. It's full of grain like corn. And it has these big metal cleats along the sides where they tie up these big ropes.
Yep.
And I thought, that may be my only chance. So I make myself a lasso out of a rope. And I'm going down.
So you're floating downstream.
And I'm flying down the stream, flying downstream. And I lasso one of those cleats.
Holy crud.
And I very quickly take the other end of the rope and wrap it around the nose of my boat.
That's going to jerk
and my
you.
boat turns around and it's going like this.
Yeah.
And then I turned my phone on and I'm talking to Sheila saying, I think I may need some help from the Water Patrol. And about that time I lose power on my phone.
Oh, no.
And Sheila is calling the Water Patrol and doing other things. My husband is out there on the Missouri River somewhere, and we don't know where he is. And, well, is he on the Kansas side or Missouri? She says both. The rivers is the boundary. She's on both, because I could be good like this, you know. And so they get hold of two of my buddies. They said, hey, Bridger's on the damn river. He's in trouble. We're not sure where he is, but he said something about he's near 435.
Okay. Out west?
Yep,
Yeah.
435.
Uh-huh.
And as I slide by underneath the bridge.
Okay.
As I slide underneath that, I am able to direct my flow direction so that I slide out of the mainstream into calmer water, and I'm able to stop it, and I tie up.
Oh, wow.
And about, 30 minutes later, here comes my two buddies with a gas can. They fill me up with gas. I crank up. Everything's fine. I go all the way back up, almost within a mile of where I need to put the boat out, to leave the river, and ran out of gas. And then I'm going back down again.
Oh, no. Oh.
If you're going to do it, you might as well screw it up right.
Oh, Lord.
Do it with style.
So,
but I survived. I managed to fix it. It took a while. I was late that night when I finally got home.
Oh, gosh, Barry. Oh, my gosh.
Oh,
well, Barry, I've been so grateful to know you, and I consider you one of the people that I love dearly, and your wife and your children and your whole family, beautiful family.
Oh, yeah.
I've been privileged to know you guys. Thank you so much for your service to our country, and to how you have shared your story with so many people to instill those kind of values.
We all have a story.
And lessons in others. You've been an inspiration. And one of the points you make in your book is that you never even know who you inspire, right?
Exactly.
You never know.
Exactly.
You never know. So
I had a kid walk up to me one day at a football game when I was a senior in college, and he said, I knew who he was, my name, but I didn't know him well. He said, Barry, he says, you have no idea the impact you've had on my life, right out of the blue. Mm. We do that a lot, not knowing it. Right. In a lot of places. Yes. So you need to put your best foot forward and take care of your neighbor. Yeah. But I never had a compliment like that. He said, you have just inspired me beyond you. I like to say, a spark makes a fire. Mm. That's beautiful. Well, thank you so much for sharing some of your story on Spirituality Adventures. And I want to just encourage everybody. This book is going to be released in February. You've got advance copies, but Amazon.com already has the cover, and I think you'll be able to end up ordering that at some point. She says if you order, because it's less expensive. Oh, you can get it. That you should. There's a place other than Amazon that you can get it. Where the heck is that? Okay. That's all right. No, I remember, it's Morgan James Publishing. Yeah. I think it's this one right here, right? Where's my suitcase? She told me to give you this, I think. Okay. Well, for our audience, by the way, if you look at Barry's military awards in the back of the book, Silver Star Medal, Purple Heart Citation, Legion of Merit, Distinguished Flying Cross, Prisoner of War Medal,
These are his medals of honor.
I figured you might like to see
True
this.
war hero here.
This is my family.
Oh wow, that's beautiful. Who did that for you?
Sheila, working with Deidre.
Ah, that's gorgeous.
But that's our family.
This is
Grandkids,
Deidre.
All
This is her husband.
husbands.
This is
Everybody's there in the family. That's the family photo.
That's beautiful. Beautiful family, Barry.
It is, no doubt about it.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Thanks everybody for tuning in to Spirituality Adventures. God bless you. We'll see you next time. This concludes today's episode. Thanks for tuning in and listening. Remember, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Remember to like, share, or subscribe to the social media platform that you're using. And then go to our website, spiritualityadventures.com, and make a one-time donation, or you can subscribe monthly and receive our special bonus content. Thanks so much.